Hey, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. So if you're new, my name is Autumn. I have two little girls. One is 2 and my oldest is 4. And I have been making printable activities for them, well, for Alani, since she was about 2 years old, possibly even sooner than that. But I just love doing it, and I've recently added some St. Patty's Day ones. I have some from last year that I'll show you, but I wanted to just show you the process of getting them together once I've printed them, how I put them together. So all that information will be in this video. I will go through how I do that. And if you're not new and things look a little different, I am in Emmy's room. As you can see, my mom made that blanket and I absolutely love it. But I'm pretty sure I said I was going to do a nursery tour for Emmy's room, and she's almost 2.5 and I just never did it. So there's that. But anyway, let me show you what I already have from last year if you are interested in St. Patty's Day activities for your little one. So I have this count and cover on my website. I already have these laminated. I like to laminate them so I don't have to worry about them ripping. Again, I'm giving them to a toddler or preschooler, accidents happen. For this, I have little number cards, which I also laminated. Once they count how many of whatever item it is, then they will cover it up. At this point, this is an independent activity for Alani, whereas this is something that I guide Emmy with. I help her with her counting and I help her with identifying the different numbers, so it is great practice for her at 2. The other item that I have are these clip cards. Most of the printables I make, you don't really need any extra things, but for my bingo boards, you generally need markers to cover your board. And then for these, you just need some clothespins. So for these ones, your little one would count and then they would clip for the correct number. This is something that is so good for Alani. I'm still very much working on Alani's hand strength. So we're doing Play-Doh, we're doing scissors, we're doing activities where she has to use these clothespins because I do want to start writing with her, but I don't really want to get very far into writing until she develops more strength in her hands and those little fingers of hers. I don't want writing to be frustrating. I don't want it to be really tiring. So I do try to find activities to help strengthen her little hands. Another way I try to keep frustration low is by introducing activities that are similar, such as using the clip cards or doing bingo or some sort of matching game or the count and cover that I have. So she's already familiar with how to use those. So then what I do is I create different printable activities that follow those same kind of rules, but introduce different skills or help her practice new skills that we have been working on. The 2 new activities that you can access on my website are using clip cards, and then the other one is a cover. If you are working with CVC words with your child, which is something I'm doing with Alani, then there is a CVC, a read and cover. So kind of like the count and cover, except they are reading and covering the picture. And then for the clip cards, there is letter matching. So the capital A and the lowercase a. And I did purposefully make it a little tricky. So I made sure to put letters that kind of are easy to mix up together to really help with that practice of identifying them and differentiating a B from a D or an N from an M. All right, so let's get into the new printables and how I prep them for Alani and Emmy. When I have a lot of things to cut, I generally use my paper trimmer. I was doing this during nap time, and all of my craft stuff I keep in Emmy's closet, so I was not able to use my paper trimmer at this time. I did not want to risk sneaking into her room and waking her up, and so I just cut everything with scissors. Normally I would put on a show or listen to a podcast, but I had Alani with me. She was having a tough time with her quiet time today, so I just let her hang out with me. Sometimes the arguments aren't worth it, and it's just easier to let her just spend a little bit more time with me. So she was cutting on her own while I was cutting these. Now, if you want to save some time, you can definitely cut after you laminate. It's not my preference because I find that sometimes it can come undone, but there are plenty of people who cut after laminating without issue. Another way to save time is to not be such a perfectionist when you cut. I can't help it. I just want all of the cuts to look really nice, but you really don't have to cut every single piece so that it's trimmed perfectly. It's just, I'm working on it. Since Alani is working on her cutting skills, I had her working from this book. I really like it. I'll make sure to link it in the description. And she was just cutting away while I was cutting these activities. And then after that, she was really interested in helping me laminate. So I let her help me with that as well. I will link the laminator that I use. I have been using this since I was teaching in the classroom. I have had this for years. It is older than Alani. I absolutely love it. So if you are in the market for a laminator, make sure to check the description. I will link the one that I use. If the sheet that I'm laminating has a lot of different pieces in it, I try my best to hold some of them as they go through so they don't slide or move in any way, because I've definitely had situations where I've had to relaminate because pieces fell on top of each other and then I just couldn't use them. So if you are new to laminating, just be careful with that, because sometimes pieces can move since it's a downward angle with these things. And that is just something that I try to avoid so I'm not causing more work. But it happens, as you'll see with this one, a piece shifted. It didn't cover another piece. I didn't have to redo it at all. But it did get kind of close, which only makes it a little bit harder when I'm cutting and trying to avoid cutting the seal that gets created when it goes through the laminator. And then I also ended up having just one more piece. So what I did real quickly was I just made a name sign for Alani and I laminated that with it so that I wasn't wasting a full sheet on just one little piece. And funny enough, Alani absolutely loves this sign. I think it's the favorite thing out of all of the things that I made for her. Like, she's been carrying the sign around. So something that ended up being just a last minute thing that I threw together ended up being something that she is currently cherishing. And this is the paper trimmer that I was referring to. I have a fairly small one, but I find that I'm able to do most of the things I need to do on it without any issue. So it just helps me move a lot faster by cutting through all of the things really quickly. And then after that, what I like to do is I like to just trim up the edges on the individual things. I do find that when I laminate, if I leave things with sharp corners, sometimes they can actually be pretty pointy. So normally, even after doing all this trimming, I will just round the edges with scissors a little bit just so that things aren't really pointy. Now, if I don't have time for that, I just don't do it because it's really not necessary. But if that's something I have a little bit of time to just do really quickly, it doesn't really take me too long, and I normally appreciate that I've done it. The girls love these printables. They have so much fun with these activities. So it just makes me so happy, and it's always just worth the time of creating them and putting them together. Emmy is working more on number identification, counting, letter identification. Those are all the things that Alani can do independently. So I can work on more of the printables that I made last year with Emmy, and the newer ones are kind of meeting Alani where she is. And so the newer ones allow Alani to have more of a challenge. Make sure to check out my blog to see what other printable activities I have available. I think I'm going to do a video soon on my busy binders because I haven't really talked about those in a while. And so if you want more info on those, check out my blog for that as well. But that's going to be it for this video. As always, thank you so much for all of your support on my channel. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.